The stage is set. The challengers are ready. And the battle of ideas is about to begin.
How many youth can these people employ?
Get ready for season 2 of the ultimate debate competition, where the sharpest minds, the boldest arguments,
because all we want is eradicating poverty at its grassroots level,
and the brightest young debaters go head to head. Who will rise to the top?
We're going to be having healthy citizens.
Who will claim the title? Tune in to find out in the explosive TV debate competition season 2, presented by iDebate.
Greetings to you all, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the TV Debate Championship Season 2. I am your host, Shema, and as always, we bring you the top debaters battling it out on the national stage. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce the teams we have in the house today. On side proposition, we have Hope Haven Christian School. Thank you. And on side opposition, we have Collège Sainte and Kabgayi. Thank you. Now, as is the custom, I will hand over to the judges to officially start the debate. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's debate. My name is Nadine. I'm the head judge of today, and I'm together with
Tony Sangwa,
Cynthia Christelle.
So today's motion is, this House believes that African nations should establish a national fund for patient capital investment initiatives to eradicate poverty at the grassroots level. May the best team win. We may have the first speaker from the opposition. You may start.
Thank you, dear judges. I go by the names of Mujisha Prosper, presenting team proposition as the first speaker representing Hope Haven. My second speaker will be Chance Noella, and my third speaker will be Gachura Fever. On the motion that today states that this House believes that African nations should establish a national fund for patient capital investment initiatives to eradicate poverty at grassroots levels. Now, let me first define the key terms so that we can have a common understanding about today's debate. Now, the first key term is poverty. The poverty is lack of basic needs in the first place. Now, the national fund means this is a body appointed by the applicant country and placed under the responsibility of National Authorization Office. Now, grassroots levels, this refers to the most basic foundation levels of something. Now, the patient capital investments, these are initiatives that are whereby an investor is willing to make a financial investment, but in this business, which with no expectations of turning a quick profit. Now, today's debate, we are not initiating a patient capital investment because they are already there. The patient capital investments are already being put in place. We are just planning to put a national fund that can support them both monetary way and can also do this kind of monitoring them so that to know that they are being effective. Now, as team proposition, we are coming to you telling you that each country will be able to contribute at least 7% of each budget, because this is a national fund. So the budget will come from the country's budget. Now the country's budget, we remove only 7%, and the 7% will be put in the national fund. And this national fund, the body will be in charge of these national funds, and the body that will be in charge of monitoring these national funds is the AU, the African Union, which is apparently a body that unites all African countries. Now, this African Union will be in charge of monitoring that these national funds are being put in place and they are being effective around.
Where's the difference between a national fund and African Union?
Exactly, that's what I want to say. The National Fund, this is a body being set by African nations so that this body can monitor the use of these patient capital investments that we are bringing up. Now, the African Union literally is a body that unites all African countries, which means that we can call
Why?
it the government of Africa denied. Now, let me go on by mentioning about the problems in the current status quo, the root causes of poverty. What are the main root causes of poverty, dear judges? Since we are addressing root causes of poverty. The first root cause of poverty is unemployment. The second is economic inequality, whereas the third is poor and lack of education. Let me go first by the word unemployment. Unemployment, there will be establishment of investments, hence employment. Now, if we are saying that this national fund will be established, and this national fund will help people to start up the businesses, since they are being monitored and they are being also given the money, so it means that these people are going to start businesses and they are going to employ more people. We are bringing about employment, so unemployment is removed. Now, economic inequality. Economic inequality, after investments will raise, the people will raise themselves up, since there will be like the people who are poor with wise thinking, that they are very wise and they start those businesses being put in action and they are getting the investments, then it means that they are also going to raise themselves up. So we are removing economic inequality. Now, poor education and lack of it. The poor education and lack of it, this is going to be solved that if I get a job, dear judges, then I'm going to take my child in a best school ever. So it means we have good education in Africa. It's just that some people can't afford them. So why are we saying that we are putting these investments? These investments are to ensure that these people are able to afford those schools, which means we are removing lack and poor of education. Now, which means we are solving the three main root causes of poverty. Now, a study that was shown, it shows that the approximately 1 to 2% annually in increase due to these investments are connected. This is a study by IMF. In terms of job creation, studies indicate that companies backed by patient capital have created around 20 to 30% more jobs compared to those funded through traditional venture. Now, in agriculture, investments have improved productivity and food security, contributing approximately 15% to agriculture output increase. Now, what do I want to say? We are tackling the job creation, we are tackling the agriculture systems, which are the main systems that can rise people of Africa out of poverty. So we stand here as team proposition to show you that our plan we're bringing to the table, this plan will solve the problem of poverty in Africa. If it is now 30% in 1 year, now tell me, dear judges, if you're good at maths, in 4 years, what's happening? I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the speech. Let's have the first speaker from opposition side. You may start now.
Thank you, judges. I'm first speaker from opposition side. From motion states that this House believes that African nations should establish a national fund for patient capital investments initiative to eradicate poverty at the grassroots level. But first of all, dear judges, we're not arguing with the definition they are bringing to the table. The national fund itself is a national fund to a pool of money or resources that is centrally managed by a government or a design authority within a country. And a patient capital refers to the long-term investment capital that is willing to for immediate returns in the anticipation of greater long-term gains, typically with a focus on social impact rather than immediate profitability. But first of all, the proposition side have to tell us what's a fund itself, and also they have to tell us the difference between profit maximization investment and patient capitals. Before I proceed on, the global issue we have today is poverty. What is the root cause of poverty? There is a lack of education, low wages, health issues, and food security. And dear judges, imagine what would happen if nothing is done. There could be health and social issues, and education disparities, and increased income and social tensions. And dear judges, we are calling out an immediate call out of action. The problem that you have to be tackled within a short time. The main problem that we're having as Africa is embezzlement, mismanagement, and lack of resources. And this problem couldn't be tackled within a long term, within the resource of a long term. Because these patient capital investment initiatives, they give the results with a long term. They can't be, so problems can't be solved within a long term. They can't be solved within a long term. It means it has to be tackled within a short time, which means that this couldn't happen. This can't be happen. And it could be good if it was in developed countries. The proposition are coming to tell us the solution which could be advocated in developed countries. Because these developed countries, they already have the resources, they have no embezzlement, they have no problems at all. But African nations, we have a lot of problems as embezzlement, mismanagement, and lack of resources, which means that this can't be worked except in developed countries, and we're not in developed countries. And also, dear judges, as the problem that we have were embezzlement and this mismanagement and lack of resources, we're looking at solving them in a fast pace, not solving them after 10 years there will be results. No, we're looking at if this could be tackled, it could be tackled in a short time. And also, the alternative, we're going to, the team to take the debate is the team to prove an alternative which is going to be on the side of the citizen, which means that we have to focus on the citizen rather than the government. We have to ensure that the citizens are having they're not living or surviving their life. Is the citizen living or surviving? We have to ensure the life of the citizen before this income on the government. And the patient capital is getting a better picture. We're admitting that we're not against this patient investing in patient capitals. But what if what is it impacting in the citizen? Are they living or surviving? We're looking at the solution which will be effective to the citizens, not the government, which patient capitals cannot do. Please. And also, the reason why we don't support this patient capital because towards afraid. Why does it fail? Because there is limited capacity and expertise, inadequate infrastructure and support system, in alignment with the local needs and regulatory and policy barriers, risk version and uncertainty. And why we don't believe that these national funds couldn't be effective on patient capital practically, and they couldn't be done practically. There is no promotion of accountability and transparency. There's no collaboration with the stakeholders. There's imbalance between links and rewards. There's complicity implementation. There is funding and resource constraints. And dear judges, the proposition side have to show that the traditional short-term investment approaches are insufficient for addressing poverty at the grassroots level. And they have to show us what is the budget allocation, the source of the allocation, the impact of the budget. They have also to prove to us. And will these patient capitals be all done in the same way in all African nations? Or countries which are 55 countries, will they be having the same investment like in South Africa and in Congo? Will they have the same? And I rest my case.
Thank you very much for the speech. Let's have the second speaker from the proposition side. You may start.
Thank you, dear judges. So the motion of today states that this House believes that African nations should establish a national fund for patient capital investment initiatives to eradicate poverty at grassroots level. That means that, first of all, we have, of course, a burden to show you how effective our national fund or this plan that we're bringing on the table is. And we have a burden to show you that this plan that we're bringing will eradicate poverty and on a grassroots level. And that's what we're about to say. They asked many questions, but let me first clarify our plan, and I think it will answer all their questions. Our plan is that every country in Africa will be taking 7% of its budget and giving it to the AU, and then the AU will be again redistributing that money collected and giving it to that body, to that national fund, which we say is a body, and then that national fund will be the one to give the money to the patient capital investors, so as for the investors to invest in the greatest initiatives which could eradicate poverty from the grassroots. So why are we advocating for AU? Because AU will be monitoring that those funds, they came here and talked about embezzlement. The African Union will be monitoring that every national fund of each country in Africa will be using the money that is allocated in order to fight and eradicate poverty at grassroots level. Let's not forget that. And then this plan that we're bringing on the table is bringing about long-term development. Patient capital investment can support sustainable development projects that address the root causes of poverty, therefore leading to a sustainable solution. Do you know what sustainable means? That means that we're addressing the now problem and even the future one, which means that we're also we're eradicating poverty. And then what were the root causes of poverty? There is unemployment. We're solving unemployment by creating job creation, by investing in grassroots initiatives. There are funds. The funds can stimulate local economies, create employment opportunities, and reduce unemployment rates, ultimately lifting individuals and families out of poverty. Therefore, we're eradicating poverty from one of its root causes, which is unemployment. And then to again remove unemployment, there is empowerment of entrepreneurs. We're right here bringing about the investment in entrepreneurs, which doesn't even require them to give the profit at that time. We're supporting them to first build themselves up so as to strengthen their businesses and then be able to eradicate the poverty. And then there is the other root cause of poverty, which is economic inequality. And our plan is bringing about inclusive growth. Our plan, the patient capital investment, reach marginalized populations and provide them with access to resources and opportunities for socio-economic advancement. So that means that economic inequality, we ain't only looking on the developed, we ain't only looking on those who have already something, but we're also funding those ideas in the rural areas who don't have nothing to fund them where they can be used to eradicate the poverty. So this is the second root cause that we're tackling. So we're tackling poverty from the root causes. And then there is education and healthcare, as they mentioned and my first speaker mentioned. And there will be enhanced social welfare. Initiatives funded by patient capital investment can improve access to essential services like healthcare, education, and infrastructure, which also are one of the root causes of poverty. So yes, we're eradicating poverty, and not only eradicating it, but from the root causes. And now what's the other benefit of this plan that we're bringing? It brings to youth empowerment. Investing in youth-led initiatives through patient capital investment can harness the potential of young people, creating a skilled workforce for the future generations, which shows the sustainability of our plan. And those people, those young ideas, that innovation that comes in our youth is crucial for the sustainable poverty eradication. Evidence and our plan is evidence-based. My first speaker gave you a study of the IMF, which shows that an increase in the GDP of approximately 1 to 2% is brought by this patient capital investment. And the main challenges that this patient capital investment face are lack of money and monitoring, which they brought, of course, on the table with the embezzlement. And we're coming and solving that with our plan of putting the AU. So we're getting the funds, which solves the problem of lack of money, and we're getting the monitoring, which comes with AU. And then this study by the IMF shows that once those challenges are tackled, then there will be a 15% increase annually in the GDP of the countries, which means that imagine 15% annually. We can't eradicate poverty, of course, now, but 15%. They talked about an immediate approach. So we're eradicating 15%, we're removing poverty 15% annually. So how is our plan not tackling immediately the problems? And we showed you the problems that you brought to the table, the healthcare, the education. We're tackling them now because we're investing in them. And actually, we ain't even asking to get the profit right now. No, we're looking for the profit in the years to come. So we're giving them the time to use the money, the investment that we use in order to build themselves up. So then if 15% annually is given, then imagine we can only multiply by 6.5 so as to make it 100%. So we only need 6 years and a half. 6 years and a half to eradicate poverty. Thank you, dear judges. That was my speech. I rest my case.
Thank you very much to the second speaker from the proposition. Let's have the second speaker from opposition.
Thank you, dear judges. I'm the second speaker from the opposition side. First of all, dear judges, we are tackling an immediate solution to the problems we already have today. They are bringing to the table patient capital, tackling education, tackling healthcare, tackling other problems which they named as the root causes. But dear judges, we asked them, what's the difference between the profit maximization investments and these patient capital investments, which they have failed to explain to us? Dear judges, what they are bringing to the table actually is the profit maximization investments. It's not patient capital, dear judges. Actually, there's this one thing like I would like us to be tackling. Today, they are saying that we are supposed to be prioritizing education, we're supposed to be prioritizing healthcare and others. But dear judges, are you going to be telling a person who is stunting, who is having malnutrition problems, who is hungry to go and study when already you're having dropouts here in Rwanda because of the same problem? Are you going to be telling people to go and study when they're not getting enough food? We already have political insecurity. We already have food insecurity. We already have many problems denied. We already have insufficient wages. We already have educational disparities. These being the problems to be tackled. Actually, they're supposed to come here. Remember, these patient capital investments are long-term investment capitals. To me, this is going to be taking a long time. Remember, judges, they say that this is going to be taking, like, according to their first speaker, it's going to be getting results in 4 years. So, dear judges, tell me, in 4 years, what will be happening in Malawi, which is now highly affected by the monkeypox? What is going to be happening in Malawi in 4 years? If we're not going to be providing vaccinations. Actually, mind you, what is going to be happening in the countries that are having malnutrition? They're not tackling food security here. They're only tackling education. Mind you, what is going to be happening when we already know the failures of these capital investments in many areas worldwide, where it has shown limited capacity and expertise in areas that it was implemented, shown inadequate infrastructure and support system, shown irregular and policy barriers, shown risk aversion and uncertainty, shown inadequate measurement and evaluation, shown coordination and collaboration issues, shown short-term focus from stakeholders and economic and political instability. Why should we be aiming for this when we already have a lot of risks in this plan? Why should we be aiming for this instead of looking at a better alternative? Dear judges, we have presented to you the challenges of this already. There's going to be investment. We already have the political instability. We already know that here in Africa we have high levels of corruption and investment, as according to the Transparency International Corruption Persecution Index, CPI, it has been ranked, the African nations have been ranked to be having the highest total number of corruptions in worldwide. Imagine, dear judges. So why should we saying that we aim for the production of money when we know that this money is not going to be accountable? We're not going to be holding anybody accountable. We're not going to be getting that efficient distribution. They're saying that they're going to be using AU. They're going to be establishing a union of African nations. But dear judges, mind you, we already have that. But why aren't we accessing the solutions they're saying we're supposed to be getting when we already have it? Dear judges, they're saying that another thing I would like to be tackling, dear judges, they're saying that they have evidences. We also have evidences for the failure of these patient capitals, dear judges. We have the downfall of microfinance in India, where it has fallen, and this is according to the Journal of Development Studies, which was done in 2011. Dear judges, we have the failure of the agriculture investments here in East Africa in the project which was the Kilomo Trust's agriculture investments, which has failed here due to the failure to align with the farmers' needs. So why should we be aiming for something which is not going to be even aligning with what we need, dear judges? This is already a failure from the first start. So why should we be aiming for a failure, dear judges? We're supposed to be looking for a sustainable solution, something that is going to be tackling the problems at hand in the first place, and which guarantees that it's going to be solving what we have. Not aiming for something we already know that is failing, not aiming for something that has already proven to not be sustainable. Dear judges, my first speaker said this would be a good solution for the developed countries, but not us, because we already have many issues to tackle first before we use this alternative of funding these patient capitals. We are supposed, first of all, to be solving the problems we have. And mind you, they have to stop confusing the profit maximization investments with patient capital. They have to come here and show us actually how is this long-term investment going to be tackling poverty, not the direct giving of funds, the profit maximization investments. They are talking, actually mistaking them, if not confusing us to believe it, that these are patient capital. Dear judges, with that said, I arrest my case.
Thank you very much for the speech. Let's have the third speaker from proposition.
Okay, Thank you. My name is Godfrey. I'm coming from the proposition side. So first of all, before I start, let me read out the motion for you guys. The motion of today states that this House believes that African nations should establish a national fund for patient capital investments initiatives to eradicate poverty at a grassroots level. So for us, the proposition side, we should have come here and showed you how the patient capital investments, they're able to eradicate poverty at a grassroots level. And then the opposition, if they're opposing our idea, they should show us how their alternative is going to be eradicating poverty. If they don't, that means they're okay with the poverty that we're already having. They are okay with the status quo that we're having, of which Africa is poor. So the opposition side have not had any alternative. All they have come here is refuting our points. But the problem is, if they're not giving us an alternative, that means they are supporting the poverty that is already existing in Africa. Secondly, this motion is stating about national funds. They're telling us that we are saying that we are going to be establishing AU, but no, we say that for us, we are advocating AU to come and involve in this. Why? Because we are advocating for the unity of Africa to fight poverty. That means we want poverty to be fought in unity, because we know when something is united, there's nothing that can stop us. So the reason why we want to eradicate poverty by bringing this AU, it is because we know it is possible by the unity of Africans. So another thing, they've come here and they said that there are three main points that they brought up. There's one thing, that there's hunger and shelter, a lack of shelter, and there's lack of vaccinations. There's also, they've said profit maximization, and also they've said embezzlement of fund. And we have said that on the embezzlement of fund, you have said that AU will be monitoring those national funds. That means AU will be monitoring the money which are in the national funds, which are being provided to the patient capital investors, if they are going to be used accurately. And after the national funds, they will be investigating, they will be supervising the patient capital investors if they are giving the money to the people. So this means the problem of embezzlement is being solved here, because our case is showing that is reliable. Another thing, they have said about hunger, no shelter, no vaccination. Mind you, for us, we came here that we're saying that they are going to only give us 7%. That means the 93% remaining of the budget is going to be used in those sectors. So this actually means that for us, there's nothing that we are doing to put a burden on the countries. We are only taking the 7% for the national funds, and also the 93% give remaining to the country. They use them in their cases. Another thing, they've come and they said that we are bringing profit maximization. We are not bringing profit maximization, because the patient capital investments, they don't look for profit. They look for the benefit of the citizens with ideas, and that's what we brought. And also the patient capital investments, they look for the long-term impact. That means that's what we're advocating for. Another thing, they came and they said that they have given us an example whereby the patient capital investments, they have not worked, and they told us that microfinances, they do not work in India. Mind you, microfinances and patient capital investments, they are two different things. Microfinances is like giving a small loan to person and they should repay you back. But patient capital investment, we are not looking for a bigger profit. We are looking for just the people to implement their ideas which are profitable. Another thing, they are saying about unemployment. We have showed you clearly that these patient capital investment, they will be put in all sectors of the country. That means agriculture, health, education, infrastructure. That means for those which are going to be put in agriculture, those people who don't have schools, those people who did not study, they will be getting jobs from the agriculture. We are actually increasing the capacity or the magnitude of the employment. Another thing, they say that that we have to show them how the traditional investment did not work. So the way the traditional investment did not work, it's because all the times that Africa has been existing, we had these traditional investments, but now we're still in poverty. There's nothing that has changed. The reason why it is because the traditional investments are working, but they are not working effectively. So we are bringing the measure of patient capital investment to bring an effective change to eradicate poverty, as how we have showed you that is possible. Because poverty will be eradicated over time. We cannot eradicate poverty quickly. No, we eradicate over time. That means 2%, 30%, 15% each year, and there is a period where it is going to reach where the communities are going to be lifted up the poverty line. Another thing, they came and they said that we should be focusing to the citizens. What is more than focusing to the citizens than giving value to the ideas of the citizens? That means if we are giving patient capital to the investment to the people, that means we are valuing their ideas, and their ideas are profitable. So we are actually advocating for the rise of our citizens. We are actually advocating for the rise of the country, actually advocating for the united combat of poverty by African nations. Not one country fighting it, but all of Africa. Thank you, I rest my case.
Thank you very much for the speech. Let's have the third speaker from the opposition.
All right, dear judges, I'm a third speech from the side of opposition for the motion which states that the House believes that African nations should establish a national fund for patient capital investments initiatives to eradicate poverty at the grassroots level, judges. What did we hear in both sides, dear judges, in the debates? What we heard from the both sides in the debate, dear judges, we heard that the side proposition were advocating for an organization which was going to be monitoring actually what was there. In the first place, we agree on both sides that the national fund actually are the patient capital investments are actually there. But actually, what we both sides we didn't agree with their monetization, which we talked about in the first place, that the practicality actually of these national funds being given to patient capital actually won't be ever going to be working. That's what we told you. We told you that when we agreed the problem which causes actually this practicality not happening was embezzlement. We told you actually was about the poor governance of these African countries. We told you actually was about the political instability and the problems. But mind you, what did the proposition come to the panel and told you? They told us that African nations we're going to be monitoring embezzlement. Having African nations, African United Nations actually, is it a new organization they're creating? It has been there and always been there. But also embezzlement have been there and always been there. But judges, this is why did they fight in the first place? Why didn't they fight this place in the first place? Remember, you judges, let me first clear this out to you. What are we talking about? What we're going to be expecting from the side opposition. We are going to be expecting from the side opposition. Why don't we believe actually, dear judges, if these national funds actually to be put into patient capital? Why don't we believe this? Or dear judges, if not that actually, why don't we believe that the patient capital investments actually are not going to be the immediate way to break the poverty cycle? We told you that, dear judges, what is the proposition I actually failed to understand was this thing. There were two things. There were actually, dear judges, there were patient capital initiatives and profit maximizing initiatives. Dear judges, let me first explain it to you very clearly. The profit maximizing initiatives actually are looking at a direct way, are looking at a way actually of breaking the poverty cycle by actually directing the funds to the citizens, which the side proposition actually failed to understand. The side proposition actually, what we're talking about, they're going to be establishing an organization which is going to be monitoring what's already there. Yes, in the first place, it's already there and it has failed. So what the side proposition failed to understand is actually that the reason why it failed in the first place actually was corruption, was actually the political instabilities, and also actually the other reasons we told you. Today, dear judges, the side proposition actually could have came to the pen and tell us the reason actually, what are they going to be doing to solve the problems which cause from actually this patient capital from not happening? We told it, and they told us that judges, they are going to be taking 7% of the 7% of the GDP of each country to contribute into these organizations. Remember, dear judges, each country has a different GDP, and also each country actually has a different also the root causes of poverty. If you're going to be, for example, taking 7% of the GDP of Rwanda, and remember, dear judges, Rwanda actually depends on agriculture. If you take 7% of its GDP and you invest it and you put it in that, are going to be showing that the 7% are going to be coming back with the problems we told you that actually the money are given to the organization, but they go into the pockets of the people. The money are given to these organizations, but they go into the pockets of people. Then we told you that throughout these year, judges, their social fund actually is not going to be beneficial. But remember, judges, not only that, just what if the country fails to give that this 70%? Is this organization not going to be happening? Because remember, judges, it's actually voluntary. I'm going to be giving 7% of my GDP to contribute to the national fund. What if I refuse? Is there going to be actually consequences for that? We haven't heard from the consequences from this. Remember, the judges, we are telling you that we're advocating for immediate action, which is going to be mitigating poverty from the grassroots level, which was actually addressing the roots, addressing the problems about poverty. Remember, they called, which is the wrong thing, they called the patient capital investments actually as investors. The judges, why should you invest an investor? Why should you invest in the first place? Because remember, they told us that the patient capital investments, they're going to be giving money to the investors actually to help break the poverty cycle. But the judges, if I'm an investor, what if you give me money and I'm gone? What is going to be happening? The money is going to be gone for good. But remember, dear judges, it's not really good. It's not an immediate call of action. We're trying to look at something which is going to be breaking the poverty cycle directly to the people. We're not trying to fund the investors. We're not trying to fund the government's itself. We are trying to we're trying a way to uplift the people who are actually down boundary, actually people actually can't get funds to develop themselves. But through us, the patient capital itself, remember, dear judges, the patient capital, we told you, it has the long-term impact. We're waiting for the profit in long-term. But remember also, dear judges, we told you that its practicality, in putting in place, it can't work, dear judges, because of several reasons. We told you that, dear judges, if the patient capital are going to be put in place, we are going to be saving several problems. We're going to be worsening the problems of embezzlement. Actually, dear judges, if I was the government, I was giving 7%. And dear judges, what if the money don't come back? Now I'm going to be having a problem of now going to be explaining to my citizens where the money went from, and I'm going to be having a problem to research the money to fund my citizens, to find the lowest citizens. But judges, they told us that, mind you, that they're finding investors actually to help them actually break the poverty cycle. But remember, dear judges, this: the money it's given voluntary. So the money also it's used voluntary. So dear judges, sincerely we're speaking actually, dear judges, if the proposition could have taken the debate, if they could have came and told us a clear reason on how actually the embezzlement problem we have, the political instability problem we have, and other problems we have actually, if the money is given to the government, we won't see that again in the future. Or actually, dear judges, how is it going directly to be to the people, where we told you that actually this profit maximizing initiatives we are talking about actually goes directly to the people. Because what we are talking about, these funds actually are not given to the investors, they are given to the people themselves, dear judges. So without that said, dear judges, I rest my case.
Thank you, dear judges. I'm the second speaker again for the reply speech from the opposition side. First of all, dear judges, the motion of today was telling us to tell you if we had to establish a fund, but we all the sides, we were agreeing on one thing, that these funds are already available. The problem, the issue of the debate today was the monitoring cycle, how these funds were going to be monitored. The opposition side failed to show us how the investment could be sustained and returned with profits, where they say that they're going to be getting 7% of the budget of the African nations, but really not mention if this is going to be a mandatory act or if it's going to be a willing act. So, dear judges, its funding is not even standing. So their alternative cannot be a sustainable way, since already its funding is not going to be reliable. So since we already don't know if this is going to be something that is going to happen, maybe they're aiming for billions, but they're not going to be receiving billions because not every nation is willing to perform this act. So, dear judges, their plan had a lot of unclarity. They felt they came here saying that they're going to be empowering entrepreneurs, creating jobs, improving access to healthy and other more. But dear judges, mind you, we told you already that there are problems that are going to be first before even tackling the problems they are trying to focus on. When they're going to be, when you're going to be having malnutrition and other factors that are going to be hindering the practicality of their plan. Another thing, dear judges, they came here and provided a plan to us, but dear judges, they failed to show us the sustenance of this plan, how this plan was going to be helping, and also they failed to show us all the difference between the profit investments, the profit maximization investments, and the patient capital, which is a long-term investment, which they fail to understand as it is. So, dear judges, with that said, this also shows that the proposition holds no grounds, since already they don't know what they're saying, they don't know what the patient capital is, and what they're aiming for is not what actually they were supposed to come here aiming for. I rest my case.
Thank you to the opposition side. Let's have the proposition side for the reply speech.
Thank you, dear judges. I go by the names of Mugisha Prosper, coming in for the reply speech. Now, the team that takes the debate, this is the first speaker. The team that takes the debate is the team to show an alternative that is on the side of the citizens. This was the words that were spelled by the first speaker team opposition. And clearly, we showed you this evidence that we are solving the problem of lack of education, and they themselves say that we have that problem. They say that the people have low wages. We showed you how that we are creating the job opportunities. Now, we showed you that we are on the side of the citizens through our speeches. Now, they say that the best team to take the debate is the team that shows a best alternative. But I didn't hear any kind of alternative that's coming from their team, which means actually if today they say that we have the problem of poverty in Africa, that's a true deal that we all agreed to on. Now, if they said we all have poverty and then we brought an alternative, yes, we do agree that the alternative is the best way, as we mentioned it. Now, they came and said, yes, we have the poverty, but they didn't bring any other alternative, which means they do agree that the fact that we stay in the status quo, we stay in the problem of poverty, we stay to the problem of poverty, and still we keep Africa hustling. Now, they didn't mention. Now, they say that the examples of failures that we have are the kinds of microfinances failures in India. But mind you, microfinances, as my third speaker said, are different from the patient capital investments. Now, we talked about the difference between profit maximization and the patient capital investments. They kept on dealing on that, which means they're actually out of the bounds. They're actually out of the motion. Now, they are talking about just removing this propaganda we're bringing, and now they're not telling us any other new propaganda, which means that they do agree to the fact that we should stay to the poverty. Now, do you want Africa with poverty? Exactly, no. So we want an Africa with kind of interesting Africa, an Africa where everyone will be fine. Now, they say that these countries will deny. Now, as my third speaker said, that for you to join this African Union, that means that you agree to the decisions they take. Now, for that matter, I welcome you to our side. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you to both teams. We are now going to take a few moments for the judges to deliberate. We'll come back after some time to give you the verdict.
So that was an intense debate, like the judges said. With me, I have the verdict, the votes of each of the judges that is going to determine who wins or loses. All right, I'm going to go ahead and unfold some of these papers to determine the judgment. I will read out the team that is written down on the paper. All right, looks like judge number 1 voted for team proposition. Judge number 2, let's see what they have in mind. Judge number 2 voted for team proposition. All right, the last judge voted team proposition. All right, I will now hand it back to the judges, but before I do that, I'd like to request the teams to have a handshake. Please approach the stage and all right. Now I will hand it back to the chair of the panel to give us the reason for the verdict of why each and every judge chose for team proposition to win this debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all teams for an amazing debate they just gave us. So to the team that won, congratulations, and to the team that also lost, you did an amazing job. So the team that won is the proposition team, and it's because they were able to show us that these initiatives are going to eradicate poverty at the grassroots level, which was the main question in the motion. And they were also able to show us, to prove that this plan of theirs had a feasibility. It was also proven that it is also going to have impacts on the citizens, which was also part of the motion's question. So thank you very much and congratulations.
All right, but before we officially close the debate, we'll hear for the proposition side, how do they feel about this particular victory?
Okay, thank you. We are very grateful for this win because we would like to give recognition to all the teams that we faced in this whole debate because they were great champions, great debaters. All the debates were intense, so we don't take this for granted. This win isn't for granted, and we would like to thank God and everyone who took part in helping us to prepare our speeches so as for us to reach at this stage. Thank you.
All right, there you have it. So we'll be closing today's debate from here. Again, we'll be back next time with more intense debates. See you next time.
The stage is set. The challengers are ready. And the battle of ideas is about to begin.
How many youth can these people employ?
Get ready for season 2 of the ultimate debate competition, where the sharpest minds, the boldest arguments,
because all we want is eradicating poverty at its grassroots level,
and the brightest young debaters go head to head. Who will rise to the top?
We're going to be having healthy citizens.
Who will claim the title? Tune in to find out in the explosive TV debate competition season 2, presented by iDebate.